Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's February 26th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and another wild and volatile day. Lots and lots of trades here. I marked at least a dozen plus trades, and you probably could argue for, like I said, a bunch more greens and maybe even some more reds or blues. So this is tough trading. I'm just going to tell you. If you wait on the good setups, you can, I mean, it's easy to find a couple of good setups in here because there's so many trades. But if you're trying to take every trade that comes up, you're just, I mean, you're going to have trouble because there's just so much volatility and there's so many swings. And I mean, and it can swing just as hard down in this uptrend as it does with the trend. And when we're moving down here, you can get rallies, just strong rallies, just as strong as the down moves. So it makes it really hard. And what you really have to do, even though there's some larger patterns here, what you have to do is hone down in and find your smaller patterns. That's really the only way to trade this. And then you're going to have lots of big bars that don't fit the rules on being able to enter and so forth. So somebody asked me yesterday or maybe the day before about maybe going to a bigger chart. But if you go to a bigger chart, you're with this volatility, your bars are going to be huge. So I don't know if that necessarily helps you. It may slow it down some, but then your bars are going to be humongous and you're probably going to have more failures and you're going to have to take on more risk. But what you might do is continue to trade this chart. But if the bar is too big to enter with your normal 8 tick stop rule, let's say you have to have 12 ticks to make your stop, to put your stop where it goes. And if you can't put your stop where it's supposed to go, which is above or below the swing high or low, then don't enter. You have to put your stop there because if you don't, you're going to get stopped out on perfectly good trades. It's hard enough to find an entry and get your move, but if you put your stop in the wrong place, there's a reason we put it there, and that's to protect it because it you know, if you look at most of your moves, prices don't go back and take take out that swing high or swing low unless prices are going to continue, unless you just read it wrong and prices are still going to continue in the other direction or whatever. So um, that's the reason we put it there. So assuming that you got in with 12 ticks instead of 8, take that additional 4 ticks and add that onto your target. So instead of going for 4 ticks, you would go for 8. So that just kind of helps. If you really, it's not that hard to get an extra 4 ticks. If your bar is so big, you got to add 4 ticks in this kind of volatility. So that's what I would recommend doing. Either that or use your limit orders and try to find a way to sneak in with limit orders with a little better. Okay, I had a little interruption there. My phone's ringing. I had to answer that one. But yeah, the only thing about the issue with using the limit orders is you're going to miss the best trades because they just take off and you don't really, they don't back up and you don't get a chance to enter. So really your best bet in this is just probably only the sim trade and just don't worry about where how big your safety stop is. Just do it and maybe go for more profit. And you know, uh, whatever you add to your safety stop to get it in the right place, add that um, to your profit target. I think that's going to be your best way. And honestly, if you're not really an experienced trader, I wouldn't be trading this market live because you'll get eat up. I actually got a email yesterday of somebody that blew their account. I've been, I like to read some letters, and this is going to take so long to go through these trades, but I'd really like to read a couple of emails I got. One guy uh, wrote to me. Read his real quick. Um, just want to say thanks for what you do. It's changing my life for sure. I'm getting really consistent and finally have the emotions and discipline pretty much under control. That was very hard for me. Put that in parentheses. I was green every day this week. Friday alone, 5 trades, 5 wins, $280. Sometimes I quit with only $50 to $100, but I rarely ever have a losing day now, and I've all but conquered uh, my emotions. I found you before I'd heard of Al Brooks. I bought one of his books a while back, watched all his videos. Now I watch yours almost every day. Uh, Yours are actually more clear and easier to understand. Uh, by the way, I've tried both the 5 minute and your suggested 2000 tick charts. I too much prefer the 2000 tick chart as well. Thank you again. And he puts his name down there. So there's another guy that's having some success. But I got another email from a gentleman, and I think I deleted his email because I don't usually read those. But basically, he said that he blew up another account, and I guess he was down on himself. It's easy to get down on yourself, but after you do that, but don't let it get to you. I mean, it happens. That's why I tell you, most people don't trade live until you can double or triple a $5,000 sim account. But even then, you may go live and still falter because you go back to it's a two-step process. First, you got to learn to do what we do, and that's the hard part. But then the second part is learning to do it to trade without emotions, because once you put some real money on the line and your heart starts racing, your mind starts, that little tricks it plays on you. It talks you out of the best trades and talks you into the worst trades, and that's just the way it is. And so once you learn how to do what we need to do and learn all the basics and the rules and how to draw your trend lines and prove that you can do it consistently, you can do it then. So the second step is just to get a hold of your emotions and do the right things. And so you have to work on this two-step process. First is learn what you need to do, and then secondly is get a hold of your emotions and control those. You should be a robot when you trade. If you win, you don't get excited. If you lose, you don't get upset, because we expect to win. That's why we're doing this. So we expect to have a lot of winning trades, so we shouldn't get excited about it. But at the same time, you're going to have losing trades. That's part of this business. The idea is to reduce those as much as you can, but you're going to have them, and so you can't let them get to you. If you have a losing trade, you got to be able to just say, oops, there was my loser, and say, if you're trading 80%, I know you know that, well, there's one of my two that I'm going to have, and, so I'm probably going to have 7 or 8 winners in a row here. And that's the way you have to be able to look at it, and you just move on, and you don't bat an eye. But basically what he said in his email to me was, I blew up my account, but the big thing is I had a loser and I got all shook up and I wanted to get it back, and I tried to get back, and all I did was just make it worse. And that's what happens to people. And he actually said he came all the way back to break even at one point, and then he ended up blowing his account that same day before it was over. So, and I know how that feels. I've been there. I've done that kind of silly thing before in the past, in the early days, and so it happens. And I think it's part of the learning process. But it's why you don't put a whole lot of money in your account either, because if you'd had more, you'd have probably lost more. And so keep that account small, no more than it needs to be. Generally, my recommendation is 2 to 3 times your needed margin, and that way, especially if you're winning, you should have plenty of margin. So, especially if you're following the rules, because you shouldn't lose all your margin on one loss. You'll lose some money, but you shouldn't lose all your margin on one loss, so or 2 losses. But it'll keep you from blowing your account, and there's no reason letting your broker have any more money of your money than necessary. Keep that money in your account and working for you, not them. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. We're already 10 minutes and we got a million trades to talk about. So I'm going to move through these real quick. But really what you have here, and I drew this a little different early on. This is a spiking channel, and it looks like we had an overshoot and then a reversal. Originally I drew this off the highs way up here, and the midline is right, and I ended up dropping this down here like so, and but I ended up moving this up and bringing this down, and you can see it does fit pretty good there. And it does give you an overshoot there and a reversal. So I believe it's a spike in a channel like I have it here. I think the lines were right originally. They just fit better here. So anyway, you really didn't need this. This really didn't help you any at all. You had to hone down into the smaller patterns, which you're going to see when I back out here. So, but that's the way I drew this at the on the big picture. And there's a two-tiered channel working down here, and you see we got a break and a move to a new low. And but again, there's not a whole lot of trades off these bigger patterns. You got to hone in on the smaller patterns. So anyway, let's back out here. And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna go through these pretty quick because there's just so many of them, and I'm already 11 minutes into this video. But 7 o'clock came right in here. You can see this spiking channel here working up, and you can see how that looks. But let me back out a little more. You still really can't see anything. And you can see how this pattern fits a lot better and gives you a little bit better view. But still, even then, I honed into the smaller stuff. But 7 o'clock came. Where was 7 o'clock? I think it was coming up right through here. For some reason that doesn't look right. Yeah, that's where it was. Okay, on that move up right there, 7 o'clock. And there's a little two-legged move down right there. Prices did not actually tick higher right there, but you can see there's so small still. See if I can back out a little more. But you can see there's a hidden two legs there, and this actually went lower and then turned and went out the other side. You could have still waited and gone long right here above that bar, but when it broke lower and turned back up, I like going long there. There is a little double bottom here as well, and there's two legs down. It's a hidden second entry, so it'd be on a little smaller level, you'd see it. But you may take that trade. It's aggressive. You really just had to kind of be patient because you don't want to be entering way up here, and you don't want to be going short yet either. There's a lower high right here, but it's right into that support and double bottom. But notice there's two legs down, and then you got a higher low right here, and that's a pretty good signal bar. There's enough room, but still I'm not crazy about it. There's a failed second entry short here, but again, you got double top there, and you see what happens. And so really, I think you just better off just to wait because none of that's very clear. It's not, it's unclear what prices are going to do. But then you come back and get this double test. And I drew this two ways as well. You're really going sideways here, but there's a little bit of an angle, and you can see that. So I drew it both ways. I like this one just because it's double test. You can see that across there. And it's a nice little small bar. And we run up here and we turn back down. There's not a very good setup here. You might have thought about going short. High or low right here. Again, I didn't mark it. Notice how prices gapped over the EMA right there. And we're just kind of going sideways. So really, you probably wanted to wait till prices came down here. I don't think I'd take that. And we just keep making higher lows here. So finally, you get a second entry long here and a little short trap. So I like going long there finally because it looks like we're going to move on up, like there may be another tier to this, or maybe this was the slanted one was wrong and maybe the flat one is right, and you can see it bounce off that support. And there is a little double test in there too. We came back and tested it right here and then again. And so I like going long right there. Nobody's expecting that to happen, but if you go long right here, this is about 8:30. The market's been open about 5 or 6 minutes here, and you catch this trade, and you get a runner with this, and that's the only trade you need today. I mean, look at it go, boom. Once it gets up in here, you just can't enter, even though it's still going and going and going. Your entry's down here, and if you miss it, you just got to watch it. So At this point, I still had these lines spread further apart. This was kind of where it was starting to go. And, you see this happening right here, and you got to figure something's going on there. I'm not sure what it is, but, and of course, then we run on up. I think I actually drew this. I can't remember when I drew that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You're playing the shorter term stuff anyway. We turn down, and this is another spiking channel right here. And you can see this channel. And if you had a little better signal bar here, you might even use that for your signal bar if you've got enough room to get out. So that's another possibility. You could argue for that to be green. Like I said, there's going to be some trades in here that could be green or red. And I may not have marked them because there's just so many trades. So if it's not a sure thing that's pretty easy to see, I probably may not have marked it. So, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. So there's just so many. But anyway, notice we made a new high right here, and I drew that trend line right across there. And originally I had it a little bit lower. And you come back, you get a first entry, and you get a second entry, and it fails. Plus, you're making, this is actually a little two-legged correction. And so that's basically a second entry. It's not a perfect signal bar, but it's a trap right there. So, it's a failed second entry long. And I'm guessing that a lot of people were trying to go long right there. And you can see them have to rush out right here. And then it bounces again, comes back up, and you get a lower high right here on a second entry short. Notice that new low, first entry, and then second entry. Nice bearish bar, go short. And then we actually got a little tick higher, so you got a new high, first entry, second entry. After two legs down, you're back to the trend line again. So when this broke lower below that bar, or you probably could have waited on this one and let it break lower, and maybe use a lemon order just to get a little more room there. It didn't matter, it worked either way, but you want to make sure you got enough room there. Another great trade. There's another turn down right here off the trend line, two more. This is actually two legs back again, but my signal bar wasn't very good. And there is a second entry short right there, but you'd probably want to wait for that to come back to the trend line, because there's actually a midline in here. I don't have it on here, but you can see that midline, and you don't want to be going short right into that midline. So I wouldn't take that short, no matter how good it looks. And then you get a failed second entry long. You could treat that as a failed second entry long, but that's still all one move up. But it did turn down and then go back up. So technically, you could treat that like a failure, and you might take that trade then. So that's another one that you could at least mark green. I'll go ahead and mark it. And we move on down. Of course, there's a lower high there, but again, you don't want to be going short way down here, right into a double bottom. And it actually corrects. And notice that low, first entry and second entry. And that's your first break, second entry short. This actually went higher and turned down, so you could have gone short one tick there, because that's where it would have created the second entry. Another nice move. Then it just bounces. There is a higher low right here. It broke lower and turned up. But it could have turned up and failed and given you a second entry short right there. So look at it go. But unfortunately, I don't think you want to enter that trade. Comes back here, gives you another high or low. And I marked this one. Notice the new high, first entry, and it pulls back. If it breaks higher right there, it's a second entry long. And the fact that it tried to go lower 1, 2, 3, 4 times and couldn't, that's a good sign that we'll probably go a little higher. And off it goes. Comes back, and then it makes another second entry long right here and confirms that trend line. It's like a little spiking channel here again. Runs up. There's actually another second entry long here. Notice that high. It technically breaks higher right there, so that's a double top. So if you got a good signal bar there, I wouldn't have a problem going long, but my signal bar is not very good. Then you get a little inside bar, and not a very good setup. This one's interesting here because you got that new low, and then first entry, and then second entry. That thing should have come on back down, and when it did, it actually broke lower and turned up. That's going to trap some people. So I like that one. Plus, if you're looking at the bigger picture, you got the trend channel way up here, so you may push on through it. Since we pushed through right there, it may push on through and going up there. It doesn't do that, but then we're working down, and you really don't get a good setup here. First entry, and then there's a failed second entry long right there. But look at that, you're kind of going sideways, and you got stems, and that's a little iffy. And you come back to the trend line here, but just not a very good setup. This one actually broke higher and turned down, and might have trapped some people. But you just don't want to go short right at the very low of a big move down like that, because most of the times that'll fail. So just be patient, and then all of a sudden it comes back, and you go up, and then you make that little trap, and it breaks higher and turns and goes back down. And you can see there's a hidden second entry. That's the better entry. And look at it go again. Boom. And this is tempting to go long down here, but notice that's more bearish than bullish, or even more bearish than neutral, because it didn't close in its middle, it closed in its lower half. And then that's an inside bar, and even though it takes off, it's just real iffy. I mean, you might give that a green one because you're so far away from the EMA, and this is played out with a break and a huge move down, but I just think it's too iffy. But look at it go. And this is just like a little repeat pattern. We saw this one. Oops, I didn't mean to grab that. I don't know if I moved it out of the right spot or not. But anyway, we run up, you get a break, new high, and a bearish bar. It is a second entry short, but it's a little bit of a trap too. I marked it green, being that far away from the EMA, but we could head on back higher again here, so it's a little questionable. Then you come back and you do the same thing again. You get if you draw your little trend line, oops, and you come outside, turn up, and then come back down and close, and then off it goes again. And again, if you just catch one of these, and I don't think you want to enter any of these, and then you get a second entry right here. Notice that low, first entry, and then second entry short. And actually I had drawn this here. I wasn't sure if this was a break or not, but we did have an overshoot here, so it could have been a break. But you can see it turns out that it's just a two-tiered channel here, and your trend line's up here. So that turns out to be another great move. Off it goes. And you can see how just about every one of these entries will get a runner. And then there's a first entry and then a second entry. And so when it breaks lower here, it's a failed second entry long. But that's, you don't want to take that. It's been too far away from the EMA. Just sit tight. Then you get a little congestion area and a break lower that fails with a double bottom, but you don't want to go long there yet. Actually, right here, if you'd had a bearish bar, you might could have gone short, because it's you got a high, you try to go higher once, and then you try to go higher again. Just not a very good setup on my chart. We bounce, you get a break, and you come over here and you basically get a second entry long short right there. But more than anything, you get a little failed breakout. There's a little resistance. It's right at the midline on the bigger pattern. And it's a second entry if you count off there. Technically, that's not a new low, but this did make a double bottom, so by the rules, it is a new low. So first entry, second entry. And then that fails and it goes higher, but I don't see any reason to go. This is two legs back to the EMA, but there's a little bit of congestion. I don't see any reason to go long right there. And then we turn back. Notice you get a close outside, new high, lower high, and then a failed second entry long below the EMA with a big bearish bar. Go short there. It's only good for a scalp. Comes back up here and then makes a double top on another second entry short. I didn't mark that one because you weren't back to the trend line, but and you are getting a little congestion, but that's 2 attempts to go higher, and that is a second entry short. Anyway, I had somebody at my door there, but second entry short. Then it comes back, first entry, second entry. Not a very good signal bar. I marked that one green. But you can see you're moving down here again. You're getting this little congestion area right here. There's a new low, first entry, second entry, but the big thing, it's a failed breakout, and it's right off the trend line. Nice bearish bar, and it is a second entry, so I like that one. Lower high right here, not a very good signal bar. If you had a good signal bar, I wouldn't have a problem going short right there. Another big move down. There's a second entry short right there you might have considered, but we've already had a break and a new low, but we're not back down to here yet. But you can see that doesn't always work out, so you could go short right there. I'll at least make that one green, and you could argue for that one to be red. I just don't like it because you've moved so far. You've already got your break, and you know, there's not a lot of room. As long as you got enough room there, that's the key. Then we turn around here and reverse. There's actually a reversal pattern right there, but I don't like trusting that yet. But when you come back here, and it gives you a chance to go back, there's like a double, you know, there's a double bottom with a higher low. That runs all the way back up. If you had a nice bearish bar right there, you might try to ride this back. You're better off to wait on the lower high. Actually, you could have entered this here, but you're still above the EMA here, but you just came off that trend line. It's a lower high. There's a couple of sideways bars there, but this one broke higher and turned back down. I definitely like entering that one. You could argue for that one, and then you get and there's a little triple top there, so that's like a new high. So first entry, second entry, and there's another entry right there. I like all three of those really. Down it goes. And then notice that new low, first entry, you run up, and this actually breaks higher, turns down, you get a second entry short right there. Great entry. Unfortunately, it didn't go very far, but it works out good. And then you run back up. Notice what happens here, another new low, first entry, and then second entry, plus you got a double top. And it's really a double test too. So second entry short, double test, double top, a little bit away from the EMA. At the very least, you can expect to probably try to ride that back to the EMA, but this thing takes on down. You might have looked at that as a failed second entry long because it's first entry, second entry, but that's not really a failure. And this did go higher and turn down, so that's another one you could argue to be green. And then first entry, second entry fails. And you aren't really into this range right here yet. There is some support down here, but you got enough room. And by the time this one formed, you got a little congestion. I wouldn't have messed with it. And then it comes up and back down, and finally you get a little double test right. Notice you made that low. You test it once, you test it twice, you get a little failed break lower. There's a hidden second entry in there really. Nice bullish bar. It's right at the 2 o'clock hour. I didn't mark it, but you could at least argue. I mean, if it wasn't at 2 o'clock, I'd probably made that one red, but being right there, I'll at least mark it green, 2 o'clock. And that pretty much gets you into the 2 o'clock hour. So, I mean, even this little tight congestion, which looked real tiny when you back out, is, I mean, it's 15, you know, 9, 10 points right there. So this thing is just crazy right now. So I'd have to go through those. So it's hard to do a chart lesson on a day like this because you got so many trades and there's just so much stuff you could talk about. I mean, this thing could be 2 hours long on a day like this. So I feel like I'm almost cheating y'all by rushing through it, but we just don't have time to do it all. It's just it's almost intimidating for me to look at it, think about talking about that many trades right there, much less all the trades. We could have talked about a whole lot more on a day like this. So the big thing to take away from these days is just to understand the volatility, understand that there's going to be huge moves in both directions regardless of the trend. Understand that you have to hone in and find these smaller trends and play them. And just remember, even though prices may move like this right here and get way away from the EMA, don't be entering up here because the odds are not good. You know, even though it just keeps going right there, the odds are not on your side. So don't be doing it. You'll be better off not to. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We're already over 30 minutes, and I feel like I've been doing this for an hour. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll